I'm going to just walk the community through so we understand. I think having gone through the numbers, you have a better appreciation for why the judge and the mayor have put some policy restrictions in place, and that is so that people are more encouraged to stay home over the 4-day period from the 3rd of July through the 6th of July, this holiday weekend. As Annette will tell us, and as people have been telling us, we need to stay home as much as possible. We do not need to be going out. We need to try to break this spike that is happening in our new cases and drop that curve to flatten out and then eventually go down. Okay, so what I want to do is go over with you our temporary park and beach restrictions. And there's 3 things we're going to cover. The judge and reciprocating the mayor have put into place beach access restrictions. We also have beach curfew restrictions. And then for the city, we have park access restrictions as well for the holiday. These 2 are going to be the same timeline, the beach access and the park access. It's the same 4-day period. The curfew is a little bit longer of a period, and that's one of the things we're going to go over here with you in a second. Okay, so let's start with the Bay and Gulf Beach restrictions and curfew. So the order that the judge just signed and that we talked about yesterday is that temporary vehicular access restriction will begin this Friday at 6 a.m. and it will end on Tuesday, the 7th of July at 6 a.m. So that's a 4-day period. And what that means is we're closing city roads onto the beach. The General Land Office controls the beach, and the beaches are open for persons to walk on. However, the city has the ability, and the GLO has allowed us to do so, to restrict access, and so that's what the order has done. We have vehicular access restrictions for 4 days at the beach. The curfew is to curtail persons at the beach as well. It starts today at 8 p.m. on both our beaches at the Bay and the Gulf. 8 p.m. at night to 6 a.m. The curfew will be in place today all the way through next Saturday, and on July 11 it will be lifted at 6 a.m. Okay, so the rest of this week, all of next week through Friday, and then Saturday the curfew will be removed. Now, vehicular restrictions do include golf carts and all-terrain vehicles, with the exception of ADA, and I'll get to that in a moment. But persons living down on the Gulf beaches in particular will not be able to take their golf carts or all-terrain vehicles onto the beach, with the exception of ADA permitted ones. Now, one key thing, though, is we do want residents and visitors to be able to walk on the beach. It's an open beach, Texas. It's in our Constitution where we can't close them. And so walking and biking, somebody asked me, can you bike on the beach? You can bike on the beach. You can walk, run, swim, fish. You can fish on the beach. We do encourage social distancing, though. If you're walking, try to stay 6 to 12 feet away from especially people you don't know. So that is permitted. That is the case both for the Bay beaches as well as the Gulf beaches. You can walk, you can swim, you can fish. On the Bay beaches, let me see if I'm going to cover it here. I'll cover it in the next slide. Okay, so social gathering, picnicking, or camping is not prohibited. We don't want groups of people hanging out on the beach as we normally do. And that goes for both the Bay beaches and the Gulf beaches. Okay, so the Bay beaches, just a little bit more breakdown on them. The Bay beaches include McGee Beach and North Beach. Now, last night, late at night, I was talking to one of our constituents, and McGee and North Beach, while the GLO owns those technically, like they do the Gulf beaches, we have a lease with the GLO, so we actually can regulate what happens on those beaches. So for the McGee Beach and the North Beach, persons can walk on the beach, but we don't want any camping or any picnicking, no tents, no umbrellas, no chairs, no sedentary action on the beach. That's true for McGee Beach and North Beach. We can, as I mentioned, we have a lease with GLO, so we can dictate what happens on those beaches. So we will allow people to walk, run, jog, fish, swim, but we don't want them to set up permanent resting spots just to keep people moving, and we don't want big groups forming. We're also going to cancel lease agreements that we have for those 4 days with some of our vendors. And so on the beaches up here on the bay, there's a cabana rental outfit, and then there's also an outfit that rents jet skis. We're going to temporarily suspend those for the 4 days as well, because the whole goal is to keep people at home, keep them away from other people, so we certainly don't want a big group of people on jet skis catching COVID. So this shows the access closures. I kind of hit the high points of it earlier, but these are all the roads that will be closing. Well, these are the ones that are in Nueces County, but north of that, Port Aransas is closing theirs. And then south of our boundaries, the Padre Island National Seashore is also closing access. So there's about 100 miles of beach restriction that will go in place by the entities to include Port Aransas, the city, county, and then the federal government. There is one section of beach where the state park will still be open, Mustang Island State Park, but it's reservations only, and it's a narrow stretch of the beach, so that is something we couldn't control. Also, not really an ocean beach, but we do have what we call Sunrise Beach. That's an RV park and a lakefront area up in Mathis. That's where Lake Corpus Christi is, one of our significant bodies of water that we use in our drinking water here in Corpus Christi. So the picnic and the waterfront areas will be closed for that same 4-day period. So that's important if people usually head up that way for the 4th just to get out of town. It's beautiful up there. I was up there myself a couple of months ago looking at our facilities, but we're going to close that facility. And so don't waste your time driving up there, because it's a good, I think, a 45-minute drive. So the Sunrise Beach RV Park and campsite will be closed for those 4-day periods, and we're not taking any reservations for RV hookup as well. Okay, now ADA accessibility. So we're being mindful of that. We've heard some communication, or we've talked to some constituents and interest groups and the GLO as well. We do have to maintain ADA accessibility for those that are ADA handicapped, and so the way persons that are in a vehicle or in a all-terrain vehicle or golf cart that have the ADA emblem and are permitted to be parking or using a four-wheeler or a golf cart with an ADA permit, what they will do is use the Packery Channel parking lot. That parking lot will not be closed, and that will remain open. That's important for the boat ramp that I'm going to talk about as well next. But somebody with ADA, needing ADA accessibility, they can park at the Packery Channel parking lot. And then also at the Padre Bali Park, the Bob Hall Pier, which is a picture over here, that will be the entry point for somebody that has a golf cart that is permitted to have used by somebody with ADA, American with Disabilities Act permitting. So we're going to have ADA access at those 2 points, and at Packery Channel and at the Padre Bali Park. The Packery Channel is for vehicular parking with a permit, and then the Padre Bali Park is for somebody actually in a golf cart or an ATV that has a permit. Okay, and then we got some questions yesterday. Can we take our boat? I guess that didn't make it in. Maybe in, but let me talk to you about it now. Some people have asked, can we still launch our boat? And so the city controls 3 boat ramps down on the Gulf beaches. There's one at Packery Channel, and then there's 2 that we technically own under the causeway, under the JFK Causeway, leading to the beach. Those we lease out to a bait and tackle shop. So those 2 are open. And the boat ramp at Packery Channel, if we go back to that prior slide, that boat ramp is open because that whole parking lot is open. And so persons that want to launch their boat, that parking lot will not be closed, nor will the ramp be closed. And so you can take your boat and leave your vehicle and launch your boat from there. You can also launch your boat from the two that are underneath the JFK Causeway. And fishing from your boat and fishing from the beach is allowed as well. Okay, and then we want to let everybody know, if you are walking on the beach, we want to make sure we keep our residents safe, and that's the whole reason we're putting the restrictions in, is to keep people safe. But we will have our lifeguards on duty as normal for all our beaches over that 4-day period. And just to remind you, our lifeguards at the Gulf beaches is every day of the week, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then at McGee Beach, our lifeguards are every day of the week as well, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then on North Beach, we do not have lifeguards at any time, so there won't be any there on that 4-day stretch. But on the Gulf beaches and McGee beaches, we'll still have our lifeguards as normal. Okay, now let's just talk a little bit about park restrictions. So, in an effort to keep people home, what we didn't want is to close the beach and then just have everybody go to one of these big regional parks. And so the mayor, along with the judge, have agreed to let's close the city's 8 big regional parks for that 4-day period. So the same time frame for our beach access closures is July 3rd, this Friday at 6 a.m., and it'll end Tuesday, July 7 at 6 a.m. And the 8 regional parks are listed here, and we're pretty familiar with them, right, as a community: Bill Witt, West Guth, the Manuel Salinas, the Water's Edge, and the Cole Park, big parks downtown, Labonte Park, Lakeview, and then Parker Park. So those parks will have restricted access. And so we've been asked, can you walk through the park? Yes, you can walk through the park, but the parking lots and kind of the drive gates with a vehicle into the park will be closed. They'll be barricaded. So if you live close by, like if you live across the street from Cole Park, you can still walk and go to the park. But by closing access, we're going to limit big groups of people, multiple parties and multiple cars going in and having barbecues and that type of thing. And if you do walk through the park, we do encourage, or if you're skateboarding, say even at Cole Park, you need a social distance, 6 to 12 feet. You probably should have a mask on. And you shouldn't associate with somebody that you don't know if you're in those parks to minimize the spread of COVID. Now, we do want to talk about the splash pads. So at Bill Witt and Salinas, those parks are going to be closed, and so therefore will the splash pads that we just opened up recently. But we have a 3rd splash pad at Lindale, and to minimize groups there, we can't really control like we can in swimming pools how many people go there. That we don't have staff that manages that, nor do we don't do any temperature checks or any of that sort. So the splash pad at Lindale Park will be closed for that 4-day period. Lindale Park won't be closed, it'll be open, but we're going to close the splash pad just to be on the safe side. Okay, so those 3 splash pads will be closed. The first 2 are closed because the park's closed, but the Lindale Park splash pad we're going to close to minimize gathering since we don't have the capacity to staff that. Okay, and then one point of maybe good news is we do have 4 swimming pools, so that will be open. On this slide here, we have they have been open, and we're not going to close those during that 4-day period. So Collier Pool, Corpus Christi Natatorium, the HEB Pool on Shelley Street, and then Greenwood Pool on Greenwood Drive. Those 4 pools will remain open. Their hours for general swim, and then there's other hours for lap swimming, but for the first 2 is 12 to 8. That's the Collier and the Natatorium, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. The HEB Pool and the Greenwood Pool are 2 to 8 p.m. time frame for those 4-day period. And each of those pools has a lap swim, so you may want to check online if you're interested in signing up for lap swim. So those are going to be open. Now the West Guth Pool, you may recall, West Guth is one of the 8 regional parks we're closing, so that pool will be closed for that 4-day period. Now the reason we're comfortable with keeping these open, though, the 4, is because we do have safety measures in place that were prescribed by the state, by the governor, and so we can only let 50% of our normal capacity of persons into those pool facilities. We have persons at the front gate. It's a controlled access, unlike the splash pads. So 50% pool capacity. So if you want to go, you may want to go early, or just be prepared to have to leave and come back, or wait until some folks leave the pool. And also at those 4 pools, we do take temperature checks. And so you can't be running a fever. We're going to take a temperature check like we do at City Hall. If you're running a fever, you won't be allowed to get into the pool. Okay? So that's a little bit of a hope, I guess, if it's will be hot, so you can take a quick swim if you'd like in those 4 pools in the city. Okay, so that was a lot of information. We'll place this on our website, this exact presentation I just went through. And as I mentioned in the beginning, the judge's order, and soon the mayor's reciprocating orders will be online. We're going to do a news release and put those out as well this afternoon. So that concludes my portion of the presentation. At this point, we're going to have Mayor McComb come up and speak to us, and then we'll have Annette Rodriguez.